Lots of people talk about chasing their dreams, but how many actually do it? Welcome to the Pursue Your Passion podcast with Tyler Kamerman. We're going to introduce you to people who are intentionally pursuing their passion every day. Through their stories of success and their struggles, you'll gain insight into how to better begin or continue your journey. Now here's Tyler with today's guest.
Welcome back, Passion Pursuers. This is your host, Tyler Kamerman, here with you always. I am excited about the information that I've got for you today. Today is another solo cast, but I'm just going to be unpacking some of the new passion that I am chasing with my journey with many hands. But before we get to that, we've got a birthday to celebrate. Now, you're probably noodling on whose birthday am I going to take the time to mention on my podcast. Since I've skipped over mine and my wife and my kids, what could be important enough to mention? Well, it's the podcast's birthday. We have been doing the Pursue Your Passion podcast now for a year, and I am excited that there's more people listening, that we're reaching a bigger audience, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank my guests. We've had some incredible people on this journey. If this is the first time you're tuning in, or maybe you just jumped on board a couple episodes ago, I would really encourage you to go back. I know sometimes when you jump on a podcast, they're on episode 150, and it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to go back and listen to everything. This is episode 27. So yeah, it'll take a little bit of time to go back and listen to everybody, but we've just had such unique voices on this show, all talking about different angles that they're coming from, different passions that they're pursuing. It's really been an incredible journey for me. And I know that if you've missed out on some of the episodes, I just want to put a plug in, to go back and check them out, because each one of these guests has brought a unique perspective, that, each one tells their own story, and for the most part, each one has gone about it just a little bit differently, faced different struggles. So again, just really encourage you to go back and listen to the previous episodes. While we're talking about the show in general, I've plugged this in the past, sometimes at the end, but I would really appreciate feedback from you. What do you want to hear more of? What do you want to hear less of? Who should I be talking to? A couple of the guests that I've had have been introductions from listeners on the show. So, if you know of somebody that's out there, getting after it, they've got a great story, I'd love the opportunity to talk to them. So keep that in mind as well. A few episodes back, I believe it was episode 17, I talked about my new pathway passion, my opportunity to work as Chief Development Officer for Many Hands. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about that, because it's a really unique story in itself. Our mission is generously growing impact, and we believe that we are called to transform together, to be love in action in a broken world. Through a comprehensive strategy, we can ignite generosity, grow community, and take people on impact journeys to carve a new, better path to live in right relationships with God and with others. So just to kind of break that down for you, that's kind of the mission statement. But the first piece of that, so generously growing impact, the first piece is the generosity engine. Okay. So we are going to ignite generosity through meaningful thrift stores. And there's different pieces to that. But for now, we'll just stop there. The second piece is grow community. And our focus there is to strengthen and develop families and communities. And that's across this, down in the Caribbean, in Haiti, but also right here in the US as well. And then the third is the impact journey. And that is helping people experience God's love in action through the community. And I was on a weekend impact journey this past weekend. And that has kind of prompted me to want to talk to you more about all the different things that we're doing. So how do we attack that? What's our strategy? That's part of what I wanted to talk to you about today, just to give you kind of a glimpse under the hood of the work that we're doing as an organization. So again, we believe that everybody needs life transformation, but that looks different when you're looking across this, in Haiti, and than it does here in the US. And actually we can kind of say that looks different Poor versus non-poor. Yeah, stay away from using the word wealthy because not everybody, is going to say, hey, I'm wealthy. But poor versus non-poor, that looks different. So right now in Haiti, we're using a pyramid to help build people up. So the base of the pyramid has three initial building blocks, and those are education, leadership development, and agriculture. And the way that we're going after this, trying to build this pyramid really is a holistic approach, but each one of those blocks has different programs that help to fulfill that piece. So education is, that's a broad one, but we focus in, we have a school, we have a preschool, and then we have a primary school. Up until this year, it was just first, second, and third grade. We're adding fourth, fifth, and sixth grade this year. So 25 kids in each class. We also just built a special education building, which is very unique in Haiti. There's very little of that being offered. In fact, one of the things that really struck me is even just people with disabilities, they're shunned, they're pushed aside. And that really obviously makes life even more difficult in a place that is already super difficult to live. So adding that special education piece has been huge. Just a quick side note on our on our schools. This past year, we had 100% pass rate. That is monumental. I'm not being over dramatic. The average passing rate in schools in Haiti is 60%. So that means 40% are either having to retake the grade or are quitting school altogether. And the reason that we're having that success is because we've added in that special education piece. We do after school programs. We do summer school. So there's lots of different pieces packed into that. Also, we're doing education for parents, and our kind of flagship program down in Haiti is our Mille Jours program, which is our Mille Jours translates to first 1,000 days in Creole. And we believe that and not even we just believe, like it's scientifically proven, the first 2.5, the first 3 years of a child's life are huge. If malnutrition has already set in, if other issues have come in those first 3 years, it's really hard to still meet them and get them to where they need to be. So while we started with the schools, we kind of shifted our focus to this first 1,000 days program as really the baseline for what we need to do to help get the kids to where they need to go. But also as a part of the program, we're coming alongside the parents to help lift them up. It's not just about handing things out. It's about showing them better ways to do things, helping them learn new things. So in that program, we're making sure that mom and baby both have adequate food, adequate medicine, so that they are healthy for those first 1,000 days. Also, as a part of that program, we're making sure that home has a concrete floor. That's a huge deal because in Haiti, a lot of the homes just have dirt floors. And I mean, you can imagine what that looks like, but the bigger deal there is because there's not a municipal water system, so there's no flush toilets. A lot of the homes don't have latrines, so they're digging a trench to do their business. And so you can imagine when there's a heavy rain, that's washing into the house. So just by putting a concrete floor down, we're eliminating a lot of skin disease, bacterial disease, just infection in general. That adding that piece takes care of that. So the cement floors are a big piece of that 1,000-day program as well. In that program, we're also encouraging mom and dad to take part in volunteering on the campus, through volunteering in our fields, through volunteering with our animal programs, with our other agricultural programs. They're learning new ways to manage, to build a garden for the first time, to plant a garden for the first time, but then to manage those crops better, and then also they have the opportunity to take part in a goat husbandry project where we give them a pregnant goat. And so then they can begin a herd of goats if they choose. But when that kid is born, the baby goat is born, we'll buy back we'll buy back the kid because we'll use the meat to feed the kids in our school. And then what we do is we give them half the money. We put the other half in an educational savings account, which we then match. And that gives them the opportunity to start saving to pay for their kid's school, their child. I need to be careful going back and forth with kid because a baby goat is a kid. Their child, when they go to school, by the time they get to first grade, our parents are paying for their school because we're coming alongside of them. We're giving them another avenue for income. We're showing them new ways to do things. So there's all these little benchmarks along the way where we're seeing success, and it's super exciting. I mentioned leadership development. A lot of that is just teaching the parents how to parent better, how to be better stewards of what they have, and to become leaders in their community. Now, obviously, that's a slow process, but we're also bringing people on. We're creating jobs. And so we now have 94 Haitians on staff at our, one of our campuses, or I should say spread across our campuses in Haiti. The third block, I mentioned a little bit, agriculture. So that's all kind of looped in. These aren't all separate programs. A lot of it is weaved in through the programs that we offer. But as I mentioned, we're teaching them better ways to grow crops. We've got our animal husbandry program. And so they're learning with us alongside of them. And that's the idea, right? Instead of just going with a Band-Aid and covering up the problem, how do we lift them up out of this? How do we come alongside of them so that they can do it for themselves and it's sustainable? That's the biggest thing. When Tim, our CEO, looked at this, it's so many ministries out there are looking for a quick fix. And sometimes we need that, right? When there's a big hurricane or an earthquake and we need to get food there right away, that's super important. But if all we're doing is continuing to hand out food, continuing to hand out clothes and money, we're not setting them up for success in the future. So the next level of that pyramid, as we're building them up, is safe homes, medical assistance, and economic development. The safe homes part of that, I mentioned the concrete floor program. Well, in addition, we build homes for people. And that is obviously a bigger financial undertaking, bigger work, but also through those concrete floors and those homes, we're putting a crew to work. With the concrete floor, it might just be a crew of 4 guys for a day, but for with the home, it's 4 to 8 guys that are busy for 2 weeks. So, it's a win for the family to get this, but we're also, creating work for people down in Haiti. But on top of that, we also source the material locally. We're not bringing the materials in. So when we have the opportunity to do this, it really is a win-win-win. It's a win for the family. It's a win for the laborers. It's also a win for the people that are supplying the products for the floor or the home. Medical assistance, I mentioned a little bit on through the Meals You program. We're providing, prenatal and other types of medicine. We're really on the preventative side. We're not a hospital. So a lot of the medical assistance comes in the form of how can you better take care of yourself, and how do we treat small scratches so they don't turn into gangrene and those types of things. And then the economic development, again, that's kind of weaved in, but the thing that I see is the jobs that we're creating, the work that we're bringing in, the fact that we're sourcing things locally. Another just great example of a choice that was made a year and a half ago. There was another big earthquake just outside of Port-au-Prince, and we saw the opportunity to source our assistance locally as well. So we bought nearly 1 million pounds of food locally from local places and delivered that to the people most heavily affected, as opposed to just shipping food down there, which again, there is a time and place for that. That was definitely a time and a place for that. But because of the alliances that we've formed, the people that we know in these different communities, we were able to support local farmers, local vendors, bring that food down. So again, it's a win for the people locally, and we were still able to provide that support in a dire situation. Now, I mentioned that the goal of all this pyramid is building up. The goal is transformation, right? So typically that transformation starts with an individual, a mom that is positively affected by the Meals You program, that child that's right alongside of her. But that one individual is all it takes to start transforming families. Even if dad doesn't buy into the program, or brother, or dad's not in the picture, whatever that looks like, that one individual starting to transform through our programs can transform a family. And the way that a lot of Haiti is set up, I mean, a lot of families stay close together. If they're not all living in one home, there's a good chance that they live in close proximity. So when one of those families transforms, the other families tend to come along. Like, okay, well, what's different over here? I'm drawn to that. And as individuals and families transform, now we take the next step up the level of the pyramid, and we start to see community transformation. And I think for me personally, it was amazing to see that happening, especially around our main campus in the Sylvan zone of Pion. We have two satellite campuses, one in Malierette and one in Jean Boulet. And there are amazing things happening there as well. Individuals, families transforming, the communities are beginning to transform, but especially in Sylvan, you can just see it. Even the people that aren't involved with the project are they're carrying themselves different. There's a sense of of pride that's happening. And our marketing director pointed out that you can even see, if you look back on images on Google Maps from prior years, in the time that we've been there, even the amount of garbage that's laying around has decreased. So even people that aren't involved with our program, like I said, are taking more pride in their community. So it's really neat that we're seeing that community transformation. We know that as that continues in Sylvan, as it really takes off in Jean Boulet and Malierette and in the fourth campus that we're going to start building very soon, we're going to see that, that community, that whole region begin to transform. And that's when we can begin to multiply that. When we can begin to transform all of Pion, now we can step out of that region and focus on transforming other parts of the country. So this is really exciting. Now I say all that with optimism to then turn around and say that if you followed Haiti at all, like, it's just been rough. They get their legs underneath them and they get them taken out again. And it just seems like this is a country that's never, it's the whole, one step forward, two steps back type of scenario with Haiti. But they're in a really, really bad spot now. It's kind of spiraled, especially in the last year and a half. The big hurricane hit. Probably the bigger thing is that their president was assassinated, and the country has been gang run for, almost a year and a half now. Really no government at all. And we're fortunate where we are in Pion that the gangs haven't started affecting, daily life in that area. But because the gangs are controlling the ports, because the gangs are controlling the trade routes, it is affecting supplies, and things are all over the country starting to rise. The anger levels, the problems. And so most of the violence had stayed in Port-au-Prince. It started showing up in Cap-Haïtien, which is in the northern part of the country. Port-au-Prince is in the south. Now there have been riots just an hour south of our campus, and violent, protests and riots. And also, it's closing in. And, within the last week, there've been people protesting and blocking the roads in and out of Pion. And so it's getting harder and harder to get supplies in and out. And this really is becoming a humanitarian crisis. I hope, I know I'm probably up on my soapbox a little bit this morning or today, and I hope you're staying with me, but I would encourage you to just do some research on what's going on in Haiti. I hope it doesn't have to get to the extent of, Ethiopia in the 80s or Rwanda in the 90s before, we actually do something. And it's scary. I mean, it's a bad time to try to be doing work there. But we're committed. We're not going anywhere, which I think, is the right thing to do. But, I would ask you to do some research. I'd ask you, if you're a praying person, to be praying for Haiti, for the people that are there trying to make a difference, and for the people of Haiti, as a whole. I'm praying that the United Nations would figure out what we're going to do to go in and help rectify this situation. So I've talked about the pyramid that we're using to, help transformation happen in Haiti. Now that looks differently on the other side. So we call it our funnels and pyramid strategy. The funnel here, like we'll say here in the US, also helps lead us to life transformation. And one of those I already kind of touched on. The first layer of the funnel is business as missions, and that's really focused on our thrift stores. So we are creating a unique environment at our thrift stores. We have 4 currently, 1 in northern Iowa and 3 in the metro area of Des Moines. And the goal there, it started with the proceeds from the thrift store go directly to fund the mission, and that makes us unique as a nonprofit. I know we've all heard the horror stories of the nonprofits where, only 15 cents or 10 cents on your dollar is actually going to fund what they say they're doing. Right now, the national average is about 35 cents of each dollar is used for overhead and admin expenses. So still 2/3 of what you're donating is going to the cause. Thanks to our thrift stores, our number is a lot closer to 10 to 12 cents is going to overhead and admin. So really, the thrift stores are covering almost all of our overhead and admin costs. So donations go directly to the mission. But back to this idea of business as missions, Tim Brand, our CEO, is an incredible strategic mind, and he saw this opportunity to build thrift stores, which can help fund the mission in Haiti. But the other benefit is that helps our local community. We're doing thrift stores better. We just are. We've won Best Thrift Store in the Metro by City View for the last 3 years. We actually just for 2021 won Best Retail, like overall retail store from the West Des Moines Chamber, which is super exciting. We're approaching this as making it a better shopping experience, taking care of employees, just doing retail differently, and we're seeing results, which is super exciting. But it also allows, again, driving that generosity engine. We go to say to someone, hey, what do you think about volunteering? No, maybe not. Well, what about donating to the cause? Yeah, no, not for me. Hey, do you have stuff? Yeah, I have stuff. And we all have stuff, right? We have attics, we have garages. Some of us have storage units that are storing stuff that we're not using. Donate that stuff. It's a great way to help the community. It's a great way to help our foundation, help our cause down in Haiti. So that's where it kind of starts. Now, our hope is that people will see the mission that we're doing and say, hey, that's a place where I'd like to volunteer my time. So, that's one of the things that I'm charged with is finding new people to help keep our stores moving forward and running efficiently. So, we're talking to groups. If you have a group from your church, from your work, from your school that would want to come in and volunteer, we love that. But we also need individuals that are able to come, maybe on a more regular basis. So, we Silver Cord students from high schools. We love retirees because, there's, hopefully at that point, there's not a ton else on your schedule other than hanging out with grandkids. So I shouldn't say nothing else on your schedule, nothing else that you have to do, right? Like that's the goal of retirement. You get to decide. But we've got one guy at our Clive store. He comes in every day from 8 to 12. And I know there's a couple at our Grimes store that volunteer, almost full-time hours. So, finding people that are passionate about what we're doing, that's a big part of, that transformation. And then project sponsorship. We're hoping to grow our donor base. Some of that is just sharing the overall story of Many Hands and getting people that are going to buy into that. But, I've found from the the short amount of time that I've been doing this, a lot of times people are drawn to something tangible. So, I'll pay this. I'll donate the money to put a concrete floor in somebody's house. I'll donate the money to build a house. I'll donate the money to give a goat to a family. So, our hope is that as people begin to understand the ministry better, that they will, be interested in supporting Many Hands generally or through specific projects. But then again, on our side, on the funnel, it's educational opportunities, and our hope there is that people will dig deeper. I just shared a little bit about what's going on in Haiti right now, and it's my hope that you will dig deeper into that and better understand what a dire situation it is right there. But then also educate more about what's going on here locally. Our goal is, yes, our name used to be Many Hands for Haiti. We have officially changed it to Many Hands because we're growing outside of Haiti, both on the international front, but we're focused on our community. We're focused on what we can do better here as well. And so on that education piece, some of that is looking at where can we be doing better here locally. And when I say locally, I'm saying Des Moines, but here locally, wherever you are. Yes, we want to go do amazing things in Haiti. We want to help them transform, but there's people right here that are hurting as well. So let's educate ourselves and learn more about what we can do there. The next layer down is impact events. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a couple minutes, the weekend that I just went through. But anytime we do a mission trip to Haiti, or soon to be our new location, which is opening in 2023, we're going to start taking trips to Abaco Island, which is a northern island in the Bahamas. Now, this is not the Nassau Bahamas. This is the island that hasn't been rebuilt since the hurricane destroyed it in 2019. So a lot of this first round of mission trips is going to be focused on rebuilding, but also, loving on the people that are there. I mean, that's at the core. That's what we are focused on. But there's lots of rebuilding to be done. One of the reasons that we landed on Abaco is that 25% of the population is immigrant Haitians, and that's happening more and more around the Caribbean because it is so dire in Haiti that people are getting on boats and unsafe boats. I mean, there are a lot of Haitians right now that are dying at sea that just aren't even documented. I saw in the news there was a whole boat that landed, in Florida. Well, most of the other countries in the Caribbean don't know what to do with the large amount of Haitians that are fleeing the country. So that was a big draw to Abaco as well, because a lot of immigrant Haitians have landed there. So, long term, our hope is to bring two leaders from that have come up through our program in Haiti and have them be leaders on Abaco. So, helping the Haitian people up into places of leadership, but then also, helping them go out with us as we expand our mission. So we got a little sidetracked there. These impact events happen domestically, but they also happen through our missions trips. And, we want to go and do, amazing things wherever we go. But part of it is helping you grow as a person as well. And so, as we funnel down through all these things, we're hoping to get people to go to these impact events so that they can focus on themselves. And so, like I said, I had the opportunity to go through an impact weekend this past weekend. And on episode 15, you can hear about how the impact journey opened the door for my opportunity with Many Hands, because Tim was talking about that on episode 15, and that just triggered further conversations. As I take a little bit of time to talk about impact specifically, I have a couple questions. I have three questions, two that came away from the weekend and one that I'll add on to those two. Tim asked us, will those who come behind you need to fix the things you broke during your life, or will they stand on foundations you built stronger because of the way that you lived? And a second question, in the present, when you walk in a room, do you create chaos or bring peace? So I'll add one on to that. If you answered one or both of those questions in a way that you didn't like, what are you doing to change the answer? Because if you hear that first question about, will those who come behind you need to fix all the things you broke during your life, or will they stand on the foundations you built? Maybe you look and you're like, well, man, right now it's like they're going to have to come back and fix things. Well, you're still alive, so you have time to change the answer to that question. You have time to change the answer to the second question. I mean, when you walk in a room, do you create chaos or do you bring peace? And I know not everything's that black and white, but those were the questions that Tim led off the weekend with that really got us thinking about where we were going to be heading. And so impact is an anagram. So each letter stands for something. So the I is immerse, being all in, being fully engaged, absorbed, and present in the world to savor the gifts all around. And so that was the first focus, right? What are we doing to be engaged and to be fully engaged? And I think the thing for me, and I've been saying this since we started the podcast. I've said this before I started the podcast. I want to be intentionally pursuing my passion, not just, hey, I'm doing this on I'm kind of doing this. Like, I want to do it with a sense of intention. But what I took away really from that piece was that being fully engaged, I want to be intentional in the moment that I'm in. So I was just gone for a week because after this weekend, I stayed up in Michigan and was meeting with donors and other partners. But what that did is it took me away from my family for a week. And what I noticed in my first time back with my kids is that I was being intentional about the conversations that we're having. And that's the piece that I think is a big spot to learn. Be present where you're at and be intentional with that time that you're spending, whether it's with your spouse, with your kids, at work, pursuing a passion. Like, too many of us get focused on what's next. What are we doing next? What are we doing next? And that causes us to not be in the moment. And I know that sounds, hippie or zen or whatever, but like that's huge. With the pace of our life, too many of us are always thinking about what comes next. And don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying you shouldn't be thinking strategically. Take that time at the beginning of the week or every night before work or at the beginning of the day to think strategically about what is happening. But from that point on, we have got to focus on being in that present moment, actually listening to the person sitting across the table from us instead of just thinking about what we're going to say next. Or, okay, I'm bored with this person. I'm going to start thinking about what my next meeting is or what I've got to do after work. Really challenge yourself to stay in that moment and be intentional with the person that or the project that you're working on. The M in impact stands for mission, uncovering your aspirations, understanding your purpose and your passion. So right there, you can probably see why this is like, as I was first getting introduced to this, I'm getting sucked in, right? Because that's a lot about what we talk about on this show is figuring out what that is, uncovering your aspirations, but then more importantly, understanding your purpose and your passion. So once you uncover it, then what are the next steps? So, that was an incredible part of the weekend as well. P, personal. Identify how you are uniquely made and connected to others. That's a big one, right? So I would say, especially if you're still one of those that's struggling to figure out what that is, identifying how you're uniquely made. Look at what you like to do. And I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but we did a strength finders the strength finders test and that was really neat. I mean, it kind of confirmed some things for me that I already knew I was good at. But one of mine that showed up was strategic. And that's the piece that as I've stepped into this role as development officer, like I know I can go out and talk to people. I've been doing that, confirmed by my mom several times since I was a little kid. It's always been easy for me to go out and talk to people and make friends. Where my confidence was lacking a little bit is on the strategic side, but seeing that showed up on my strength finder and talking through that with Jess and talking through that with Tim, like that is something that I can do. That is something that I can do well, that I've done in the past. And I just needed to kind of have that, my confidence bolstered a little bit there. But for me, responsibility and values also showed up. And that was really huge to me, to know that, I shouldn't say to have it confirmed that is, a focus and it's not just me paying lip service. Like my value, my values, taking care of others is super important to me. But, I digress. Strength Finders isn't the end all be all, right? There's lots of interesting, tests that you can take. But then under that P also was how you're connected to others. And that is evaluating relationships, paying attention to, ones that you maybe want to improve upon. But part of that too is how can your connections help you further your purpose? And that's not, some people hear that and like, oh, gross, I don't want to use people. It's not using people. It's not using people at all. It's you have built relationships with people. Now, expand on those relationships, sit down and talk about, hey, here's where I'm hoping to go. And figure out if there's doors that can be opened for you, or that you can walk through with them, whatever's comfortable for you and whatever's, comfortable for them. But I believe God puts people in our lives for a purpose, for a reason. We're supposed to love everybody, but some of those people are to help us meet new people to further that mission that we're on. So the A in impact is action, intentionally living out your calling. Are you becoming the person that you want to be? I mean, that's a question to definitely ask yourself. And that was, again, just just falls into, the things that I get excited about, intentionally living out your calling. So now you've figured out what it is that you're supposed to be doing. Now, are you focusing the time and effort on that? And are you doing that intentionally? Just a few minutes ago, I was talking about doing things with intention, and that is so important. In that section, we talked about three things that I just wanted to share with you that I felt like were, golden nuggets, as I like to say. Purpose is knowing your why. Productivity is doing your why. And peace is resting in your why. And I loved that because, it's surrounded around your why, figuring out why you're doing something, but then knowing that there's different seasons, there's different stages to how you approach that and what that looks like. So C of impact is challenge, healing the wounded voice to be love and action in the world. And the wounded voice is, a voice in our head telling us on repeat that everything is wrong, or that this specific thing is wrong. And I will say that this was not the most fun part of the weekend, but super powerful. And you think about last night I'm reading, and it might be a little bit of advanced material for a 9-year-old, but John Acuff wrote a book called Soundtracks, and that is just talking about the soundtracks that play in your head. And then he turned around and wrote a book with his daughters called Your New Playlist. And it's kind of like the teen version of John's book Soundtracks that he wrote. And I was reading that with Ariana last night, and it came to a place where, she was talking about the voice in your head. And she said, right, here's how you can find out if you have good soundtracks or bad soundtracks. And she said, write down a goal. It can be a huge goal, it can be a medium-sized goal, it can be a small goal, but write it down and then pay attention to what are the first voices that you hear. So, if you write down, I'm going to run a 5K. As you read that goal, after you've written it down, what are the first voices? Are the first voices like, yeah, that's great. That's going to help you get in better shape. That's great. Good idea. Start with a 5K. Maybe we can get to a 10K next. Or is it more along the lines of, you'll never be able to run a 5K. You're out of shape. You're fat. Your knees hurt. You haven't run in 10 years. I mean, what are those first reactions? Because those are the soundtracks that you have. Now, the wounded voice probably goes even a step above that. Those are like things that happened or that someone said to you that have hurt you for a really long time. But it's something that we need to deal with. It's something that we need to look at before we can really experience true transformation. And so, like I said, that was not a fun part of the weekend. That was super challenging. And, but it was great. I mean, it took some work, and, it's going to take some additional work after some of those things have been highlighted, but I know that it's a very important part of a journey of this impact journey, but also the journey that most of you that are listening to this show are on. We need to deal with the hurt that's happened in the past so that we don't continue to hurt ourselves and we don't continue to hurt others. And then the T is transformation, building your story and claiming your story for positive change. So, all of those things build on top of each other. And we've talked about it in different formats on the show as well. But each of those steps come together to build the story that we're supposed to tell, to find the mission that we're supposed to go on, to find that passion that we've been pursuing. All of these steps build on top of each other so that we can tell that story for positive change and make the positive change that we want to out in the world. So to say this was an impactful weekend would be an understatement. I'm inspired by the material that we went through. I'm excited about the opportunity to be a part of hopefully beginning to teach that to other people. Don't know if that's in the plans anytime in the near future, but I know for me, as I was going through it, I'm like, this is powerful. I want to share this with more people. So, more to come on that. We'll see. We do a lot of different things at Many Hands, and we want to make sure that we're doing them all well. So, I'm not announcing that impact is going worldwide or anything like that, but I'm excited about what's coming in regards to that in particular. I'm also super excited about what's coming with the opportunity that I have with Many Hands. And so I would encourage you to check out Many Hands, mh4h.org. We are always looking for new partners in a variety of different ways. If you're looking for a place to serve, if you're looking for a place to support financially, if you're looking for a missions trip, if you just want to learn more, heck, reach out to me and I'll share more about the organization and about ways that you can get involved. I know that this has been a lot about Many Hands and what we do, but the purpose for bringing this up is so that you can hear about one of the passions that I'm focused on, and don't think that I've let the other things go. I had the opportunity both last week and the week before that to be in the studio working on new voiceover projects. Haven't had any on-camera opportunities recently, but these are all things that I'm going to continue to do because they're what fill me up, and that's what I would encourage you to do as well. If your passion is not at your day job, that's okay. We've talked about that before. It's not always during the day that we're doing what fills our passion, but I just want to continue speaking that into you. Like, if you haven't found that, if you're not on that passion journey, that purpose journey, that you would continue to search and not run yourself ragged searching, but less searching and more continuing to keep your eyes open for where you're being called, for where you're being led. So I am, again, I know I say this every episode, but I'm so excited that you're on this journey with me. Happy birthday to the Pursue Your Passion podcast. I know this next year is going to be exciting. I've already got some great guests lined up that I'm excited to talk with and share with you over the course of the next few weeks. Again, plug to go back, check out other episodes. The next new episode's coming up in 2 weeks, and it's going to be a great one. Thanks a lot. Keep chasing those passions.
If you have questions or would like to contact us, please check out the show details for contact information. Thanks for listening to the Pursue Your Passion podcast.